Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
The Desert Swimmer is a fascinating tale about Brendan Cullen, who manages 10,000 head sheep station 65 miles outside Broken Hill, which just happens to be 600 kilometres from the nearest beach in New South Wales. However, he decided in 2022 to swim the English Channel. I like people who do things differently, and something tells me that Brendan is certainly one of them. I'm delighted to say, ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys and whatever, today, welcoming onto this show, Brendan himself. Brendan, good morning from us, good afternoon, good evening to you.
G'day, Giles. How are you, mate?
Well, I'm very, very well indeed. And the way that you said, "G'day, Giles, how are you, mate?" A touch of the Australian there, I think.
Yeah, born and bred, mate. As born in the desert and still live in the desert.
So what is this? I mean, obviously this place, Broken Hill, presumably very, it's got a hill that's broken. I would imagine because you don't muck around when you name places. Let's not even go about something knob. But anyway, moving swiftly onwards. I mean, where is Broken Hill?
Yeah, look, if you can picture Australia on a map, it would be easy to explain that it's a little bit right of centre of Australia, sort of south east of, say, Alice Springs, where Uluru or Ayers Rock is. So it's basically the desert. And our average rainfall in this country is about 175 mil a year,
right?
Which is not a lot.
So when I was a small spotty English schoolboy with short trousers, the sort of person you would have detested, are we talking the sort of like Flying Doctor sort of thing, and Skippy the Bush Kangaroo? Are we talking that sort of thing?
Well, you sort of are. In fact, I do some peer support work with the Flying Doctor. Have done for about 10 years now, and so Broken Hill has an RFDS Flying Doctor clinic in the town. So Broken Hill's a mining town.
Right.
And 18,000 people live there. And that's where the great BHP was built and forged in the late 1800s, Broken Hill Proprietary.
Right.
And huge mining company.
You're not going to tell me this was used as a backdrop for Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, when they come through and they hit the mining town, are you?
You've done your homework, mate, because that's exactly where Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was filmed, in a lot of it anyway. So, it's iconic in its own right, that's for sure.
Genius. Right, anyway, so let's get off that because we go down some very strange rabbit warrens if we're not careful, mate. Explain to me a bit, because obviously, so you're in God's own country, Australia. Why on earth do you want to go to that cold, wet and miserable little island and try and swim the English Channel, for goodness sake? Is it like a sharks?
Yeah, gummy sharks, mate. Nothing's got teeth over there in that channel. But it's an iconic swim, but I was never a swimmer. So back in 2015, I was diagnosed with depression, and I switched my life on its end, basically, and met up with my coach in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And basically created a relationship there, and we really forged a team. And he said to me one day, "Mate, you should have a crack at swimming the English Channel." And I scoffed at it because I was 600 kilometres from the nearest ocean, and I'm running a sheep and cattle station. It's 150,000 acres, and 10,000 sheep, 300 head of cattle, and 100 watering points. So I was busy enough. But then I thought to myself, you know what, mate, why not give it a crack? And so I rang him and I said, "Look, what do you think about teaching a bloke or giving me the opportunity to swim the channel?" And he said, "Righto, mate, you've opened a can of worms." So that was basically the journey. And 3 years of training, which was hard work, I must admit.
So, I mean, you mentioned sort of like, people know about my backstory, but I mean, when you fess up to having either an addiction or depression, it can be a really difficult thing to have. And, you know, and we kind of live on stereotypes. So I've said, you know, that I'm that sort of small, spotty schoolboy in my short trousers, you know, reading about Skippy or whatever. And you're supposed to be this rough, tough, nothing phases you, wind-beaten sort of outback legend with like 80,000 sheep under your wing. So, I mean, did you kind of realise that something wasn't kind of right? And do you find it quite difficult, or is this part of the modern Australia where you can talk about your feelings, kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's getting better these days, Giles. I mean, there's no doubt about that in regards to reaching out and asking for help. It's still tough. You know, it doesn't matter which country you live in, really, mate. But, you know, for me, there was some childhood trauma. I was boarding at the age of 7, and a lot of people board when they're young, living on sheep and cattle stations for their schooling. So there was that. Plus, you know, as I grew older, you know, overreaching, you know, overworking myself, not being present with my family, and, you know, self-medicating, you know, a lot of drinking and all the rest of it. And I think in the end, it just got too much for me. I mean, I moved off my family property, which we were hoping that we might have had the opportunity to walk in and take over one day, like succeed through succession, but we couldn't do that either. So there was just a number of things. And for me, I couldn't get rid of the brain fog, and I was carting all that around with me. And it wasn't until 2015 that I walked into the Broken Hill-based hospital and asked for help. And pretty much at that point, they diagnosed me with depression, which, look, for me, it was the best thing that could have ever happened, because I was always wondering what was going on, why I couldn't get rid of what was floating around in my head, and I just needed some space, and I didn't know where to find it. And so that diagnosis for me was life-changing for the better, yeah, for sure.
And why swimming? Because as I said before, you know, you get no rainfall. I mean, you know, unless you fall in a water hole or something, you know. So what was it that attracted you to swimming rather than I don't know, like long distance walking or, you know, trekking? Because, you know, you've got those wild expanses of Australia out there. Why the swimming? Yeah,
I've always been a runner, Giles. Like, you know, sports always played a huge role in my life, and we'd moved from one sheep station to another, and my brother rang me up. He said, "Mate, you want to come and swim over at Bondi and do the Bondi to Bronte open water swim?" And I said, "Well, righto. Well, I'll come over and watch you, and I'll run, and you can swim." Lachlan lost his hand when he was 2,
right,
in a farming accident. So he's done some incredible stuff. You know, he's been through a lot. And I thought, you know, I'll go over and support him. And that basically sparked the idea of swimming. So when I got back to Cars Station, where I live now, I thought, you know, I've got to start training. So I went into the local swimming pool, which is 35 mile, and got in there. And I said to my coach, mate, at the time, I said, is there any chance I can swim with you? And he said, get in, swim 100 metres, let me see what you look like. And so I jumped in, swam 100 metres, and he said, mate, you need a lot of work. But that was the spark, really, that set things off. And because I was only 35 mile from the closest pool, it just seemed like something I could do. And so I pulled it on, Giles.
Yeah, no, it's just a couple of things that I really pick up from that, right? One is it's Lachlan's. It's all Lachlan's fault. It's your bleeding brother. It's always going to be that. It's, you know, it's the sibling thing. You know, I've got thankfully I have sisters, so we never get onto that situation. But I'd also, you know, when I was living in London, you know, I used to hang out an awful lot with the Kiwis and the Saffers, and also a lot of Aussies. And it's just the way you casually say, like, oh, it's 35 miles, which is basically, what is that, 50 kilometres? And, you know, I've got the Mediterranean there. And you guys go, oh, I'm just nipping out for a pint of milk, and that's like a 7-hour drive, then back in. Oh, we went to Inverness because we got a bit bored. You know what I mean? It's that sort of thing. So you're swimming, and that's fine because you're in a pool and you're obviously developing the technique. But when you're going to take it out onto the open water, as the Americans would say, I mean, how do you transfer that skill set to there? Because it's entirely different, you know, kettle of fish, if you like, or a proposition when you're in a pool as when you're in open water. I mean, you guys know about riptides more than anybody else in the world, I would think.
Yeah, it's a really great question, actually. And look, it wasn't just the swimming pool that I used. So there's a lake system that I live near, only about 40 k's away. So, let's say 25 mile. It's called the Menindee Lake System, and it's a series of lakes, and it's right on the edge of one of our main rivers called the Darling River that runs through Australia.
Right.
And I was told that I needed to normalise conditions. So I basically had to jump in there through winter and wherever I could and swim. But if you can imagine jumping into a cup of coffee, a black cup of coffee.
That's how I start every morning, Brendan, to be honest with you, but there you go. Come on, yeah.
It was a little bit like that, The water gets down to, 10 degrees, so 9 degrees. And, so you need to normalise conditions to have a look at the channel. So I was doing that, swimming there, swimming in the Broken Hill Aquatic Centre, swimming in my dams on the property. I would park a vehicle on top of the dam bank and shine the lights into the water if I had a late day's work and swim at night. And I'd swim from one bank to the other. My hand had hit the bank wall and I'd turn around and swim back the other way. So anywhere I could go, I'd jump in water.
Croc wrestling as a sideline? We were wrestling with crocs just to get around it, because obviously in Australia, I presume the Darling River was discovered by somebody called Darling. It's not like because it's full of people going, "Oh, Darling, leap in the river,"
Yeah. Well, I think it probably was, but it's also called, for the Indigenous people of Australia, it's also called the Barker as well. So there's a couple of names, and. But, you're hitting logs and stumps in the water, and I tell the story about swimming along and a fish went in my mouth and a carp went in my mouth mid-stroke, which wasn't pleasant. But, I had some wonderful times. And the other thing too is I'd jump in a freezer to get that cold water acclimatisation. So I'd get that down between 5 and 10 degrees and I'd sit in that for 10, 15 minutes and put on weight, Giles. One of the things swimming in the channel is that, I started the training at 87 kilos, and by the time I got to Dover in England, I was 97 kilos. So putting on weight as well. So, getting fat and fast at the same time, it's the best fun because you can just, chew the house down. You can have a real good old feed and train, there's nothing better.
What were the family thinking, by the way? Oh, sorry, Dad's going out to leap into a chocolate covered into the Darling Lake, and then you can't have your Coca-Cola, kids, because Dad's in the freezer.
Yeah, with no clothes on.
Yay! That's not a popsicle, etc. Oh, mate.
Right. Well, I can tell you, they were extremely supportive, but I think you need a bit of lunacy to do this sort of stuff. There's no doubt about that. But, I think learning to say yes to things that you want to do is important. And pre-2015, I probably lost my voice a bit. And then post-2015, I just learned to say yes when I wanted to and no when I wanted to. And that makes a huge difference to the way you live your life. And not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I'd be training to swim the English Channel.
So how do you get over there? Because you're busy. How do you take time off to go and do that? And you don't just rock up to Dover and go, right, the French are over there. Here we go, boys. So, how did you're not setting off and thinking, I'll just have one last pork pie before I set out. So, next one's going to be a baguette, when I reach France. So how do you get a support network to get yourself over there and B, look after, the 10,000, unless you bought them all with you, 10,000 sheep or whatever. Yeah. But B, because you can't just do it on your own. So presumably you've got to have a boat, presumably a support boat. You've got to have a team around you because otherwise you could end up anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And you basically got to give yourself over to the team. So, you put 3 years of training in and, I travelled 60,000 kilometres. So it's probably 50,000 miles in those 3 years to train. So, and in that period of time, I built a team that was going to be there for me if I didn't make it. and that team was my coach, 3 mates, and my wife, my oldest daughter, and my sister-in-law. And we basically travelled to the UK, jumped on a boat called the Sea Leopard Charter, which is one of the channel boats. Incredible boat, great team on the boat. And we decided to have a crack. So basically they made a call one morning and said, right, you're ready to go. And my team jumped on the boat and away we went. And my wife and my daughter and my sister-in-law were back in the UK doing all the comms. So it was just a weird experience, the whole thing. But, 3 years of training and then having that opportunity to jump in the water was something else. You're finally there after all the hard work.
Did it seem kind of sort of surreal because you trained for this like a so-and-so for 3 years and then you're there and you are, because do you just sort of wade in off a beach with the boat in front of you? Do you leap off? Do you have to physically walk into the water? You can't get off the back of a boat and start swimming. I mean, how does it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, firstly, I remember coming into Dover and looking out over to my right shoulder and I could see France and I thought, bloody hell, I can see it. And but we were there for a couple of days. But generally what you do is you get on the boat and then you sail out of the harbour and you go and, we took off from Shakespeare's Beach. So it's about a 10-minute steam and the boat parks up and you get all lathered up. Put your goggles on, put your swim cap on, make sure everything's right, and you jump in the water and you swim to shore. You walk out onto the beach, they blow the siren, and bang, you start swimming towards the boat. And really, you absolutely give yourself over to your team. You're just there to swim. They're there to get you across, the line. And I basically gave myself over. And Mike Gregory, my swim coach at the time, he said, mate, just swim until you hit something, meaning France. So I said, righto, I will, mate. I'll just swim and see if I can hit something. So that's pretty much the way it started.
I mean, did you sort of think about, because obviously you're quite pumped. I mean, I imagine the adrenaline must be absolutely rocketing through your system at that point. The problem must be that you don't go off too early, as the saying goes, and get yourself absolutely sort of shattered. And I choose my words carefully on a live radio show. You get yourself shattered, by sort of 2 hours in, because this is a slog, isn't it, Brendan?
An absolute slog. And for me, I always talk about your why. Why are you doing it? For me, it was simple. It was just to try and get to the other side. And but that's rumbling around in your head. But I was nervous, naive, and I felt that I'd done so much training that I was hoping that the training was going to get me across there regardless. But it's the feeding component as well when you're in the channel. You're getting fed every half an hour, and that's basically, flat Coke, Staminade, Gatorade, lemon tea, honey, just a whole bunch of stuff, ibuprofen, Panadol, and every half an hour that's going into your body, and you're not allowed to touch the boat. You're getting fed on a lanyard. So, it's can be a bit torturous. Sort of halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, it was becoming a bit of a slog. And previous to jumping in the channel, I'd done a qualifier, which was an 8-hour swim back in Australia in Melbourne, Port Phillip Bay.
Yeah.
So I knew I had 8 hours in me, but I didn't know what was going to happen beyond that time frame. So I just kept swimming, mate. Swimming.
I mean, do you feel like they should, we talk about sort of currents and stuff. Like, when you're in the water in the channel, do you actually feel you're being pulled, you're being pushed or whatever, or blimey, that looks like and I suppose tankers look awfully different when you're bobbing around with your head out of the water and it comes steaming past.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I didn't feel anything like that, but there are a couple of really big rips that go through the channel. It's quite tidal, and I got to a point where I hit what they call the channel swimmer's graveyard, where you can see France, and you feel like you're within arm's reach, and then you can't see it. It takes you away and spits you up to Belgium somewhere.
Those
really
damn
does take
French,
away.
you know, they put that in specially. If you were swimming in La Manche, it'd be different. They'd scoot you through that. They're like they're like the jet stream, shooting you towards. But yeah, go on, mate.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the sun was going down, and I started the last 5 hours I was swimming in the dark, so I couldn't actually see France.
Whoa.
And they had a light off the side of the boat and swimming away. And probably the last 3 hours I come down crook and I was injured. And so it was a real slog. But my team, you know, they were counting my strokes. They were looking after me. And really I just relied on that heavily. And then my coach yelled out to me, last feed, mate, last feed, which is basically your last feed before you hit France. And I was just in shock when I heard that because I've been in the water for a long time and I'd lost my marbles a bit at that point. And anyway, Mike jumped in behind me because you can swim behind the swimmer, but you can't swim in front. And he jumped in behind me and he said, keep swimming, mate. And the boat had sort of pulled up and they were shining a light towards France. And look, I had no idea where I was at that point of time. And I'm swimming away and he said, swim towards the light, mate, swim towards the light. That was at 3 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden my left hand, my fingers dragged through the sands of France. And I thought, my God, I've made it. And he said, now stand up, mate, stand up. So I stood up and walked out onto the beach on the sands of France. And 17 hours exactly and 64 kilometres later, and I landed on the sands of France.
Wow. 17 hours. 17 hours in the water.
Yeah, it's a long time, mate, and it felt like 17 hours too. It's a bit of a slog, but anyway, we got there, which was unbelievable. And when I got there and I hugged Mike and, you know, I shed a few tears, and then I said, mate, I've got to go and get some pebbles for my kids. And so I'm rummaging around on the sands of France looking for some pebbles. I reckon I landed on the sandiest beach in France because there wasn't a pebble to be found. He said, get back on the boat, mate, you've lost the plot. So anyway, that's what I did, got back on the boat. So, yeah. And
then you just scoot back across and you're over in about sort of an hour and a bit, presumably. Is it really like that?
Yeah, I think it's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours, but I passed out on the boat, you know, they wrapped me up and put me on a beanbag and away we went. Yeah, it was quite extraordinary.
So what you did that. I mean, what was the reaction like when you got back to Australia and they went, you know, well, I imagine the meeting at the airport, you know, name a street after you in your honour, you know?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was quite surreal landing back in Broken Hill after being away for a couple of weeks, and I was met at the airport with my swim squad, some people from town, some friends, and it was like a hero's welcome. And I was just in shock. I didn't expect any of that because the thing is that the training component was 3 years and I didn't understand the enormity of the achievement. And I certainly understand that now, but it took me a while to recognise that because you're so focused on trying to get to the other side. And getting back into Australia was quite the thing, and it was a good news story, Giles, post-COVID. You know, yeah. So you know, there was a lot of ordinary stuff going on through COVID, as you know, and this was a good news story, and it gave a lot of people a lift, gave our town a lift, which was really cool.
So. You're not planning to go to, swim to Tassie or anything. Is that you haven't got Hobart in your bleeding in your sights, for goodness sake, man.
No, mate, I'm not swimming across Bass Strait. I can give you the tip, yeah, I've been lucky enough to do another swim. I swam Catalina last year, on the south coast of California.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which was a lovely swim, and it was a nice night swim, and it's part of what they call the World Triple Crown. So did that and swam a local lake here as well with some friends. And look, it was... Yeah, I think swimming's in my blood. You know, the open water swimming community is an incredible community to be part of, and it's, you know, not just attached to Australia, it's a worldwide community, and it doesn't matter where you go or who you speak to within that community, everyone's so positive.
What are you hoping that people are going to take? Because I could talk to you until, you know, literally the tide comes and takes me away. But what are you hoping that people are going to learn from the book?
To learn to take the first step, mate, if you're struggling. I mean, you'll follow my story, the courage to take the first step and ask for help. If you can do that, you're going to be a better person for it.
The book is called The Desert Swimmer: From Severe Depression on an Outback Sheep Station to Swimming in the English Channel. Did you write this with Paul? Did he come to you, or did you come to him to write this book?
Yeah, I came to Paul. Paul Mitchell is an incredible ghostwriter, incredible writer, in fact, and he got the best out of me. He said, mate, for people to understand who you are, you really need to disclose who you are. And I carted a lot of secrets around me from such a young age, and my self-worth was pretty low. Although externally, if you're looking at me, you would have thought that I was just a normal person, but internally I was no good. And so I spell that out in the book, and I basically take a step into the channel, and then I take you back to the age of 7, and it sort of hops from swimming the channel to taking you through my life.
Ah, genius, mate. If people want to say hello to you, do you do the social media thing? Can people find you on the socials, or are you too busy trying to find out where on earth half your sheep have gone?
They can get me on Instagram on the.desert.swimmer.
Brilliant. And listeners, go. You can see a picture. Is that you modelling the trunks, by the way, the Speedos on the front? You'll see the front cover. If you click on that, a well-known South American river-based firm, yes, Orinoco, will have it sent to you. The book is called The Desert Swimmer. It's from severe depression to swimming the English Channel. It's by the brilliant Brendan Cullen. Brendan, I thought this interview would be good. It's been better than I could have imagined, mate. Have a fantastic evening over there in Broken Hill, and congratulations on the book and everything. Brendan Cullen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks so much, Giles.